And welcome everybody to this month's The Librarian Speaks with Mama Vi. I am the designated extrovert of the Carter Johnson Librarian Collection, Matthew Carey. And tonight we are talking with Mama, and she is all riled up and raring to go to tell you what's new in the library.
Now, let me see, we on? Yeah, cool. I still have a sign in front of me that I can't figure out how to turn off. I know we're recording, the heck with it. What's new in the library? As I was saying, we had a visit from Florida. And the Judson Street family / Library Lane was in the local newspaper 2 weeks ago. And what had happened was the crazy old lady got an idea about 8 months ago about the power of words. Come on, we're a library. We deal with words all the time. Now, they may be a tad more twisted and kinky, but we deal with words. And it started because of a wonderful incident that had happened a Christmas and a half ago. I had a display on the lawn. A man knocked on my door, asked me where the display came from. And since it wasn't local, I had it made. We chatted for a few minutes, and the display was built around the word love in 30-inch high red letters. And he said that every time he passed it, either to or from work, it gave him a smile and it made his day. I put it where memories go, and we'll be talking about that later, memories in general. And then along comes, of course, COVID and crazy and bad manners and people taking sides and saying nasty things about the entire world and hostilities. And I suddenly started thinking, what would happen if instead of rancor and nastiness, we started putting up words that would empower? So I called the man who made the letters for me almost 2 years ago at that point, a year and a half ago, and asked him what it would take to make more of them. And then I talked to all of the family on Library Lane, and hopefully you all have seen one of Matthew's videos to be able to explain that term, and all of the family houses that exist within one block. And I asked all of my, I say kids, my youngins, if they could put a word in front of their house to empower someone driving down the street, what would it be? And what would they choose? So they each chose a word. I called the man who made them, who, by the way, is in Florida. He cut them all out for me, and he drove them up to save us the cost of the shipping, which would have been just prohibitive. One of my leather sons, Bud, who you've heard me talk about, painted them to match all of the different houses up and down the street. Well, word of the project got out to the local television station and the newspaper. And Judson Street was both front page and on the local news with words that empower. And to give you an idea, I just wanted to show you the front of the library and the front of the center. Matt, can you pull those up for me as I try to find this mouse? Yeah, there goes something else. For those of you who have seen, oops, come back here, there we are, who have seen the library, sitting on the front of the library is the word learn. But sitting in front of the center are the words inspire, love. And we have gotten so many comments from people going up and down the street. But I guess if inspiration is a true and sincere form of flattery, this past weekend, as I was driving to another part of Evansville, I saw one of the local church members putting up 30-inch high letters that spelled out unity. And I stopped to say something to him, and he said he got this inspiration from an article in the paper, and he wanted to put something uplifting on the front of the church. So they put up unity. Hopefully, it'll catch on. But now that you've seen the front of the center, let's talk about all of the other crazy things going on at the back of the center. When I bought the building, Matthew, pull up that backyard for me, will you? When I bought the building, it backed into a local park, but most of it was overgrown, and just beating back to the fence line was its own chore. Got it back to the fence line, couldn't stand it, because the hedges, no matter what you do, grew, and they weren't supposed to be there anyway. There were weeds, and of course, a weed is something planted somewhere where you don't want it. So after getting tired of, brushing up against it, I figured I wanted it all gone. So a friend of mine who owns a landscaping company and has worked with me before, and who loves me and thinks I'm as crazy as a June bug because of all of the various things that I've asked him, decided that he would do the design that I asked, and in the process give me a new fence. So to guarantee that nothing could grow against it, I had an 8-foot perimeter lined in stone. And then some magnolia trees added that will ultimately grow about 30 feet. And then the start of a very small pergola, which will allow someone to sit under an evergreen canopy at some point in the future and find peace or meditate or just go and read a book. And what better thing to do in the library, since a lot of the community meets there anyway. We have more space for picnicking and things like that. But then, that those wild ideas that old people have when my kids should be around going, Mom, don't do that. There was no one to say, Mom, don't do that. So I called an acquaintance that I had met. And because a family member is getting married in 2 different places over the weekend, we are going to bless the rings and bless the couple at the center, where all of the families, an old moneyed Louisiana family and a blue collar New York family, are going to meet the Leather family at the center on Saturday. And the wedding is happening in the garden on Sunday. So that sets that up. But I called an acquaintance and said, have you ever designed a labyrinth that exits in a different direction than it comes in? Because for anyone who has ever walked the labyrinth, it's an exercise in meditation. You walk the path in contemplation until you get to the center, where you should have centered yourself. And then you walk back out the way you came, in harmony, because you should have centered yourself by that time. Well, he asked what I wanted. And I said, I want you to design a labyrinth for me that has 2 ways in and a completely different exit. When he got over the initial shock, he sent me back some sketches. I approved it. He drew the pattern, which is an 18-foot in diameter circle. And assuming I can ever get past this rain, that giant circle you saw in front of the pergola is going to be an 8-foot in diameter stone labyrinth. So my 2 young brides will enter from the entrance, each walk their separate path, meet in the middle, walk out together into the labyrinth, where they will be blessed by their Leather family, their straight family when they get over the initial shock of all the kinky people at the barbecue. We will call down the ancestors to bless them and bless their rings. And we have already had, the labyrinth hasn't even been laid yet. We're still working on the stonework under the pergola. And we've already had 2 different requests for weddings next year, so that the brides, well, 2 sets of brides and 1 set of grooms, I think, also wants to come in to be able to walk the labyrinth as a couple and be married under the pergola. So that's what's going on at the center. And since the center and the library share one huge backyard, we're probably set up to accommodate anywhere between 80 and 100 people. So that's what's new outside. Now let's talk about inside. Somebody was asking about the garage. Matt, do you remember who it was?
That was Intellectual Daddy.
Sir, see, what had happened was, remember, for those who took a look at the front of the center has a garage. The library does not. It just has a very long driveway. Well, the last thing the center needs is a garage. So my thoughts turned to turning that into a wonderful reading room. And then I went to the city and I said to the nice people, so what's it going to take to do this? And they said, you can't. And I went, pardon me. And then they gave me a whole bunch of hurdles I had to jump over before I could do it. I did what they asked me to, and they kept asking me for more. And I finally said, enough is enough. I'm going to do it anyway. And I get to do it because a wonderful man who is watching this handed the library a check for $1,000 and said, do with it what you want. So between getting a parking pad in, because that was one of the city's requirements, being blessed with, as a gift, with 30 different bookcases, bringing in some carpenter friends who could level a garage floor or create leveling for the bookcases, the garage floor or garage floor slope. But they managed to build risers, I guess you could call them, to level off 7 bookcases. We got these 7 bookcases attached to the wall. Now, Matt and Shar were here right after it was done and helped me unload about 35 boxes of books and about 30 boxes of videotaped erotica. That sounds so much nicer than porn, doesn't it?
I won't say the title of my favorite.
Now, yeah. Now, what you don't see are the other walls. On the opposite side of this is a whole set of plastic shelving that still has about 50 cases of books and give or take about 65 cases of videotapes that we will now move one by one to the other wall so that it's in front of these bookcases. Take down the storage shelves, line that wall because it's an outside wall so that we have insulation there. Put another set of 9 bookcases up and hopefully, notice how I said that, get all of the rest of the boxes empty. One of the children who's an electrician has said, if you supply the materials, I will figure out how to wire this room so that we can get, one of the freestanding heater air conditioners in, because the room is only about 450 square feet. And then get it painted, get the garage floor done. And then last but not least, which is the biggest fight with the city, we're taking out the garage door and putting in a new one that is fully insulated, that has what's called a man door in it, which would allow people to come and go without having to lift the garage door. And then we're just going to take it off the tracks. The city says the door has to be there. It didn't say it had to open. They just said I had to have a garage door. So I will.
Mama, can you explain real quick why the garage door is so important?
Okay.
Just quickly.
In that area of town, and we are very close to downtown, the city says every house has to be able to park 2 cars. Now, the library has an extended driveway, so actually 3 cars could go bumper to bumper. The garage, as we would use the term, the city uses the term covered parking space. So in taking out the garage, I'm eliminated a parking space. So they require me to build a parking pad next to the driveway, which I did. Took in the proof I had done it. They said, you still can't do it. You now have to do this, and then you have to do that. And I went, forgive the English. Oh, I'm sorry. Read between the lines. And finally called the garage door company and said, can you make me a garage door that is fully insulated with a door in it? And he said, sure, we do it all the time. So when I bought
Because the government over here is nuts. Yes, we are familiar with this concept.
I brought him over to look at it. He said, we can hang it flush in its place. And I said, can you take out the overhead racks? He said, don't you want to open it? And I went, nope, never again. City says the door has to be there. There were no regulations. It said it had to be usable. So we'll put in the garage door, take out the tracks. I have the wall that I needed, and slowly but surely, we will convert it into a new reading room for the center. And by the way, thank you, Tom.
I just thought everybody should understand how piddly the city of Evansville has been about this parking space.
I was nice. I tried to get it done by the book. And after them throwing the book at me for the third time, I said, I can get around this faster than you can. So, you know. Okay, now where are we, Matt?
We are up to your featured room that you're very excited about, which I think you just covered.
We kind of sort of just covered that one.
Okay. Well, this tonight was all you. So there you have no schedule.
Okay. Once upon a time when dinosaurs ruled the earth, Matt and Char were here, and I think this was 2.5 years ago, and convinced me that unboxing was a thing. Now, I had never heard of said unboxing. So they directed me to YouTube, which I watch quite frequently from some of my favorite political pundits, and they type in unboxing. And I watched about 3 of these with revelation and amazement, because it never dawned on me that anybody would ever care about watching someone else open a package. And how wrong I was. There were probably 15 different people that they pointed out who were all doing unboxings of technology, unboxings of home goods, unboxings of plants, which I immediately got addicted to, unboxings of makeup, unboxings of all sorts of things. And some of it was the revelation of seeing what was in the box and the fun of that. But for a few, very few, a little of it was also kind of relating stories and memories to what was in the box. So they convinced me while they were here to try to figure out Zoom. My prowess with technology is legendary. It hates me. I hate it. I am a proud Luddite, although admittedly it is kind of fun. You didn't hear me say that. And Matt,
yes, I did.
Matt's take on this was, if I could set this up for you and all you have to do is put a button, would you do it? Okay, so we tried. A couple of boxes of books and books that I had ordered had come into the library, and he's standing on my shoulder like the very loyal son going, press here. So I pressed there, and much to my surprise, up on screen comes my face, which now I have to look at and tell stories into. Okay, I'm not sure why anybody else would want to look at this, but we're going to give this a shot. So we did a couple of them together, and he said, now we're going home finally. You're going to keep doing these, right? Sure. Maybe. Kind of. Maybe. And I did like 1 or 2. And then the nudge or threat, and I'm not sure which way to put that, came in of, you just got your own YouTube channel. What? Well, you know those unboxings we did? We got a channel on YouTube, and it's called The Library, Matt can fill in the blank, and we put them up, and you have people who have watched them. But no pressure at all. And then, of course, because I spend far too much time in online rare bookstores, and way too many rare book dealers already know me, and then there's that extra little time on eBay. packages roll into the library that I've ordered, which is why I'll never retire, probably twice a week. And okay, you want to see what happens? So I did the unboxings and I, put them in a little file marked Zoom, and Char came and took them off my computer because I would have no idea how to send these things. And they started popping up on YouTube. Then no pressure, but hi, there's a thing called Facebook Live, and we need you to do the same thing on Facebook Live, no pressure. And then a couple of the library scholars chimed in with, well, why don't you tell me a story on Facebook Live and tell the world what you're doing, once or twice a month. More technology, but okay. Well, a very dear friend decided that he was going to start sharing some of the memories, experiences, and memorabilia from people that we both loved. Yeah, they keep multiplying these stories. And more boxes started coming in. But this time, they weren't boxes of things that I had purchased. They were boxes of memorabilia. Now, right here is where I need to clarify a few terms. For so long, you have heard me talk about history, memory, experience. They're actually three different things, and they're usually triggered by something that is a thing, memorabilia. So I wanted to start by comparing this, which is one of the gifts in a box from Tom Butts. Now, the t-shirt, based on its size, belonged to a man that I adored. This is the t-shirt from the very first International Ms. Leather. They only made about 60 because they didn't think they would sell them. And of that 60 or so, I doubt that 5 or 6 still exist. Now, this wonderful piece of memorabilia is a fact. And people use fact and truth interchangeably, and they're actually not interchangeable. The fact is the hard, cold thing. It is the thing that is unmutable. It is here. The memory or truth is slightly different for all of us, based on our perspectives, based on our experience. Now, I look at this t-shirt, and the minute I see it, I think of an old and dear friend who you have heard me refer to as twin, and that's Judy Tallwing, because Judy and I share a birthday. And we're both Geminis, so we call each other twin. I look at this t-shirt and my mind immediately runs to Judy. Someone else who looks at this t-shirt might have been at that first contest. I saw them contest too, but I wasn't at contest 1. Our truths are filtered through our memories. And though both come back to the shirt, they may be slightly different. Now, all of that is a lead up to what I have discovered about the joy of so many of these unboxings that I've done. Some have been about books and what the book might have meant to me in terms of its hunt or why I acquired it. Some have triggered memories of my first time reading it or someone telling me a story about it. But as more and more people have been sending me boxes full of their memorabilia, they have triggered memories of experiences, of people, of dates, of how our lives have intercrossed. And since I never know what's in any one box, opening that box is a walk down memory lane for me. and the delight, the joy, the surprise of what is in each box as I open it triggers memories, triggers stories. And since normally I'm doing these unboxings for a camera with no audience to be seen or filed later, this time I wanted to do unboxings with you all here, so that if it triggers memories, thoughts, comments, we can all share them together. Tonight I'm going to open two. One is from a man named Efren Gonzalez. And some of you know that one of the rooms in the center is named after Efren. I first and foremost would just suggest that you find him on Facebook, friend him and get to know him. Efren is a photographer par excellence. His work has been shown in galleries all over North America, but he is also a Leatherman, and he has viewed this tribe through his camera lens for going on 35 years. When he contacted me a year and a half ago, he said, Vi, I need to be able to do something with this incredible archive I've got. Almost 40 crates of negatives that go back to the very early 80s, in the early Stonewall parades, marches actually, forgive me, in New York City. Leather events like filming the early livings in leather and the dungeons and so on, all over North America. And now, slowly but surely, he is sending so many of those beautiful photographs and some of his memorabilia to us. Is it packaged incredibly well? Yes.
Mama, if I may, while you cut that open, I'm going to tell them what actually happened. Kind of like Clue. What we threatened Mama with was a custom-made leather vest with a tripod sticking off the front of them with a GoPro on it that recorded everything she said from now until. This was our plan. We had contacted a leather crafter. This was going to happen. And then we realized that Mama would have to change the batteries in the GoPro and make it go again. And we hit a wall. So we came up with this plan as Mama, what's the word here? We agreed a compromise. This was a compromise. And she also was instructed to, anytime she had a story pop into her head that she wanted to tell, to go sit down in front of her computer and record it. And she has done that as well. So all of those are archived on the YouTube channel, which I linked a little earlier. You guys might want to check that out. Mama, isn't the first IMSL, isn't there a photo of the first IMSL right behind you? Right over your left shoulder?
Actually,
or is it is
that Judy up here? I'm
sorry, not Judy. There is an IMSL over your left shoulder.
Oh, that's the one I married.
Yes.
That's IMSL 10.
I'm off on my timeline just a bit. I knew there was a very important IMSL over your left shoulder.
That's IMSL 10. Oh my stars. This one is full of memorabilia. You know? Either these boxes of paper is getting heavier.
Yes.
That has to be what it is.
That's exactly what's happening, Mama.
This box is full of files. So Efren is not only cleaning out his photographs, he's also cleaning out his files. Now, what I adore about him is that everything is meticulously labeled. Whatever is in here, I know is from 2005. And it's probably New York. Pride flyers. And I thought I saw a newsletter in here. More information about the 2005 March at Stonewall.
Thank you, Rob. Mama, just Rob has linked Efren's website in the chat for anybody that wants to go investigate. Thank you, sir.
Okay. No name on, oh my.
And this is the fun of watching Mama unbox stuff.
These are some of Ephraim's old photographs. Let me turn a few of these around.
Wow.
Some of these were done for a newsletter that I used to write for called Black Leather in Color. Ephraim Gonzalez, as a man of color, also, oh my, also allowed his photos to be published. So many of these wonderful men are now deceased, but they're beautifully captured through Ephraim's photography. Not only does he have his own file cabinets in the vault in the Ephraim Gonzalez room, he also, Robbie, in 1996, he also has his own 2 bookcases within the Ephraim Gonzalez room. Oh, different Robbie. This beautiful Black Leatherman was one of the founders of the Jacks of Color. And these are all different photo shoots that Ephraim did of him. Tribal markings on his back that accent his chain harness. The good thing, the wonderful thing is every photo is labeled. He's put very gently on the back the name, the date, and where the photograph was taken. So many of these will stay in their envelopes. We'll make sure that the tags are glued down so that they can be looked at by researchers who at some point in time, I know, are going to be looking at his work. Here's one from Leather Pride Night. Let's see what he did. For those who have never heard of the event, because it hasn't been done now in about 4 years, one of the largest, if not the largest, leather auction in the country was done for a very special event for charity in New York City called Leather Pride Night. They ran the event for about 20 or 25 years. Title holders from all over the country would come in to be the models for LPN, and our finest toy makers, our finest clothing makers, etc., would submit all sorts of things to be auctioned off for charity, from straitjackets done by David Menkes to Broadway theater tickets. It usually raised anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 a year just to go to the charities that supported us. These are 2 beautiful models. One is wearing a corset to be sold. And this lovely young thing is modeling a jacket to be sold. The thing, the memory. When the Stonewall Committee was looking for other ways to raise money to guarantee that the march could continue, and the charities that supported us had support from the committee, they came up with an entire weekend to go along with Stonewall Pride, so that it wasn't just the parade, it was the auction the night before put on by the leather community. It was a huge dance where the drag community, the royal court, the leather community all came together with the gay community to raise awareness, to celebrate who we were. and to generate the funds that this community needed to go on for another year. And Leather Pride Night was so much a part of it. Ephraim has a file from the vault, a wonderful club in New York, very similar to Hellfire or Paddles or all of the SM nightclubs that New York was famous for. Photos from American Brotherhood Weekend 1994. Good Lord, I think I judged that contest. Memories based on experience, based on something that would trigger them.
American Brotherhood Weekend 1994, that would have been in Boston.
I hear Scott.
Scott Erickson has snuck in on me. There
American
he is.
Brotherhood Weekend. This one is claiming Washington, and it looks like 94. A very, very young Lolita Wolf. Let me see if there are other years on here, because this looks like 94. Beautifully photographed, but a little too dark to tell who is in this picture.
Let me look at my pens, one moment.
Scott, where are you?
I'm right here.
A very young Frank Nowicki and Lenny Broberg and a whole bunch of contestants. At one point in time, the American Brotherhood family began with, of course, the American Leatherman, the American Cowboy.
Yep.
American Leather Woman was added, the first of whom was Sarah Humble, and the American Leather Girl.
Yep.
And, well, Boy was added first, I think. American Leather Boy and then the American Leather Girl.
Correct.
And
but originally it was in Boston. In the
and
early
then moved to
90s.
DC with Uncles, right? Jose Uncles?
Yep.
Looks like somebody in this picture had a really good time. Yeah, he's labeling this one 94. Washington, DC. So these are the kinds of things that are beginning to come in to be kept by the library for researchers and to hold on to people's personal memories and memorabilia and how it relates to the tribe. Now, there are a lot of small files in here, some of which look like they contain newsletters, programs, lots of programs. And all sorts of wonderful things, and it's going to be weeks of going through just to drool over. Oh, good Lord. Talk about memories. For those who attended Living in Leather in its heyday, a program from one of the early Living in Leathers. So I'm going to move this box out to get to the next one, which is even bigger.
I'm going to take the moment while you're swapping here, because we don't focus on this here, but we do appreciate them very much, and you see where it goes. I have put the PayPal donation information in the chat for the Carter Johnson Library and Collection for your consideration. Thank you.
I have the pins from American Brotherhood Weekend right here.
Scott, back those up just a little.
Do you want to screen share, Scott?
I can.
Let's see here. If I remember
See,
what
this
button to
is
push.
why it's so good to have people who are actually versed in technology.
Yeah, I don't remember if I can do that or not. Shar may be the one that needs to do that.
Yeah, it's not allowing me to screen share.
I don't remember where that button's at. I will add a spotlight for you and remove Mama so you will be full screen.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, and the 94 one is there. This collection is from Mick Miller, who is the founder of ABW, and these are the Boston pins. And 94 is listed, including 95. After that, he sold it, and that's when it went to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So anything marked 94 would be Boston.
And he has this listed as Washington, so he's
Because that's where it went after he sold it.
yeah, he's probably Ephraim is probably off by a year.
Yeah. But these are
Well, that's probably
right
that's
here.
probably the first one in Washington then.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Scott. Thank you.
It was an amazing event. It was 3.5 very active days between contests, workshops, parties, banquets. The old ABWs were quite a family reunion. Okay, now the next box, which is even bigger, was sent to the library. Actually, 3 boxes this size were driven here, mostly because as a loving man who's sitting with us has found out the postage for this stuff is prohibitive. Why? Because our memories are almost as heavy as I am. But this box is from Sir Gareth and his slave Toy from Denver. Sir Gareth and Toy were Southeast Master and Slave 2014, I think. But the thing that they did, based evidently on a conversation after an event that they had with Robbie and I while we were just sitting around after an event having drinks in the bar, was to try to find the bits and pieces of our history that had been lost to garage sales, lost to estate sales, lost because they were stolen, and lost before because someone died. To find them, reclaim them, and either send them back to their original owners, send them back to the clubs, or send them on to places that would appreciate them, like the library or the archives. And to do that, they founded an organization called Reclaiming Our Leather History. Now, what they have sent is a box full. This one says Sir Gareth and Slave Toys Personal Journey and Memorabilia and Reclaiming Our Leather History, Patches, etc. So let's see some of the things that are in here. Oh, rather lovely silk shirt. Hopefully there's a story in this box that explains this. Whoa, moving down to lots and lots of things that are just sort of loose. Here's a bag with all sorts of souvenir pens, as in to write with, and a patch from NLA, Colorado.
Looks like that belongs in the colors of leather.
It will be. Various and sundry programs, schedules, presenters packages. This looks like, class schedule from, looks like Thunder in the Mountains. What year, I'm not sure. Filing, this is going to be wonderful. Looking through this is going to be incredible. Presenter package from South Plains Leather.
Would initial guess be from their title year and their travels?
Yeah. We have the associate's patches from Reclaiming Our Leather History. These were the patches that were given to our scouts, to the people who literally were boots on the ground. And some of the things that were reclaimed were amazing. We sent 2 Chicago Hellfire vests back to Hellfire. We found the founder's vest of the 15 Association.
Wow.
In Europe. It came up absolutely by accident. And Toy and Sir Gareth actually bought that to bring it back to the United States, had Boot Blacks work on it, and sent that back to the 15. A t-shirt from Self, 16. Okay, I'm impressed this didn't get broken. Master Slave Conference mug. Wow, this is, I'm about to date myself horribly. Very rarely nowadays do I think youth, the like 7 to 12 crowd, have the fun of running around grandmom or auntie's house, exploring and discovering things, finding an old photo album and flipping through it and wondering who the people were, or finding a box of letters or a box of memorabilia and looking at it and remembering maybe some of the stories they heard, or being curious enough about something odd just to ask a question and hear a story. Now, I did it a lot in my youth in my great-grandmother's home, or in the homes of some of my grandmother's siblings who would have been my great aunts and uncles, finding pictures, stuff, old clothes, incredibly dated shoes, and so on, and laughing, but being able to ask questions and learn a lot. This looks like a pride flag. I could be wrong. Oh, this is someone's sash. I'm sorry, Robbie isn't here to see this one. Kinky Prom King 2014. Now, there is a story that goes with this that I am very eager to hear. That's not a bad little crown there either. And if anybody is on from Colorado and would like to share some stories, that would be wonderful. Armbands from Kinky Prom. Another sash of it, Kinky Prom King. Another one from 2014. So I guess There were two kings, and there might have been two. I have never been, yeah, no, not my style, but damn, it's pretty. And it's two of my favorite colors. I love diamonds. Who doesn't? And I love sapphires, even if they aren't real. I refuse. There was a very quick, here, put it on and see what happens. No. We have notebooks.
Good night, Sparky. Thanks for coming.
Notebooks of events where they presented together, because the notebook contains not only the judges, some of the judges' notes, it also contains the judges' programs and things like that. So this will get filed in their memorabilia. Lots of notebooks. Love that. My. High protocol events, a grounding tool for your MS relationship. This looks like some presenters' very detailed notes on high protocol dinners, high protocol teas.
I'll be there in October. Keep that handy.
How to train the staff. This looks like quite a set of notes here. Ooh, including some of the favors that were made for the meal as placeholders.
Wow.
This one is labeled Sir Gareth, Southeast Leather Conference. And it's another set of presenters' notes, as well as, yeah, it's a series of presenters' notes. Some from Master Obsidian and his slave at the time, Namaste. How to score the contest. Other event notes from different presenters, including something here from Archer, from Atlanta, Master David Cook, bless his soul. The memorabilia that reminds me of the experience that triggers the memory. The joy of unboxing.
And I'd like to point out that all of you are generating our history every day.
More presenters' notes. This one is on the entire state. What has Colorado got to offer? Formal dinner, formal brunch, the domestic violence program. This is an impressive set, and it even includes the group's bylaws. Why reinvent the wheel when you can look it up from someone else's group? At least 2 more presenters' packages and clothing? Oh. Okay. How many of you understand this delightful piece of artwork and the bag? International Miss Leather, IMSL, has a very special men's division because of one of our lawyers by the name of Spencer Bergstedt. Spencer is referred to as Mr. IMSL. Before his transition, Spence was one of the international Ms. Leathers. And now, as IMSL honors him every year, he is Mr. IMSL, but he has created a whole moving army, so to speak, of men who support their sisters. And he
That's
is called
fantastic.
the Men of IMSL. So we now have a bag to go with that. And a t-shirt from Restoring Our Leather History. And yes, I am a tad bit prejudiced because I'm on the board. But the intent was to find it so that it could not be lost. And I am reminded of one very special reclamation that came up on the board. Robbie told me about it. At the time, I had a little spare cash. It was a vest. So it was a vest from a bar in San Francisco, but nobody could remember who the title holder was. So we bought the vest. I bought the vest for the project. And that year, Robbie and I were due to bring the library to San Francisco for a week. We traced down the bar, and one afternoon we took some time off, and Robbie and I went over to the bar to return the vest to the bar owner, hoping that they could find the title holder the vest belonged to. Come to find out, and he returned it during the course of the week we were there, and found out the young man who owned the vest had been very ill and had been in the hospital for 35 days or so. And while he was in the hospital, his storage unit was sold because his family didn't know he had one. So he lost all of his possessions. And the only piece of his life that he got back was the vest that we returned to him. And that's what Reclaiming Our Leather History is about posting it, finding it, talking about it. Finding out at this point, because far too many people are actually auctioning off their history for money, whether or not they would like us to buy it back because they needed the money, which was why they had to sell it, or because they were changing lives and whatever the part of their leather history was no longer personal to them. And please feel free to send it on. So we reclaim it, reclaiming our leather history. And there are a few other things in here, another set of mugs, and oh my Lord, you know, they say the good things fall to the bottom. A bag of patches, pins, and event badges. Let's pull out a few just to see what's in here.
You have my attention.
You have my attention too.
Okay, we have programs. We have badges. By the way, this is Toy, who is, let's do this way, who is one of the founders, as I said, of Reclaiming Leather History. Southeast Slave 2015. Their master slave patches, probably for their vest. Let me bunches of event badges. Southwest Leather Conference from a few different years. IMSL, they were presenting. So many of the pins are still attached to the badges, which is one way to save them. something about Dr. Bob Rubel, and something they were doing with Bob Rubel and Goddess Indigo, and more reclaiming our leather history pins on top of that. Badges from Sin in the City, which is an event that I don't even think is still going on, is it?
I was going to say, God rest its soul.
Now that's a great lanyard. I don't think I've ever been in an event where the lanyard is actually chainmail, and that's quite beautifully made.
It really is.
Patches, a patch from Southeast Leatherfest. An HDML or HMDL. I can never remember which way that goes. Is it het male dominant leather or het dominant male leather? HDML.
HTML.
Thank you. A patch from the NLA. I said lots and lots and lots of badges. I'm going to take a lot of these out of their holders and put them into books. Pins from Sin in the City. A mama's pin.
I hope y'all are enjoying Mama getting lost in the box.
And again, another incredible lanyard from Heartland Leather Competition. The lanyard alone is gorgeous. Making fantasies happen. Making fantasies real. And yeah, when these are the kinds of unboxings that are just wonderful to do, because not only do they show me their personal history and organizing this and being able to get it into notebooks so that people can flip through their history. It also takes me down amnesia lane, as it were. Scott, I wish it, wow. Just badges and badges and, a poker chip from an event.
Sin in the City and those out.
Thank you.
Oh. I have poker chips from Miss World 2005.
Funny thing about that. A presenter for Beyond Leather, patch for Beyond Leather 25.
Nice.
And good Lord. I keynoted for them, I can't remember how many times. Seems like every time I'm down there, I get into mischief.
Not you.
You know, stuff happens.
What had happened was,
What had happened was a pin from DNA, which is not Do Not Resuscitate. It was Drummer North America. In the brief attempt to revive it. And just, another patch from Self. So I guess it's time for me to start organizing because Self's 25th is coming up in June. And there aren't a lot of us left who are at Self 1, Southeast Leatherfest 1. There are even fewer of us who were at Southeast Leather before it actually became Southeast Leatherfest. So seeing it hit that mile marker will allow me to remember a lot of old friends. Remember the man who wanted to bring that concept to life, Jack Stice, who himself was an international master.
I have an interesting picture that goes with that story, Mama.
Another self-pen. And a lot of wonderful memories of that man. A Southern gentleman who was also a gentle man. Anyway, there are a few other miscellaneous things in here. There is another mug. There is another identical presenter's notebook. There is the delight of knowing nothing got broken. And there are two date books, well, date books / notebooks, two more from Reclaiming Our Leather History and Colorado Master and Slave. Both are blank, which I'm kind of sorry about, but that's okay too. There will be wonderful bits and pieces to add to the library shelves and to add to the notebooks full of the memories of Sir Gareth and Toy.
I'm going to do a little memory of my own here, Mama.
So now that you've watched me get lost in an unboxing, shared some of the stories with me, you kind of get the feeling for what it's like every time a package comes in. And I delve into either why I bought it or some of the treasures that people share with the library so that those mementos and bits and pieces of memorabilia are not lost. The thing is, as I said, every time I open one, I remember someone, someplace, some event, something, or some story. And all of mine interlock with all of the memories of the people who send these to me. I am eternally grateful that I can open them, add them to the library's history, and share their stories with you. But now that I've blathered on forever, is there anything in here that triggers a memory for anyone else?
I have one for you real quick, and then we will get to questions. This is Mama receiving the Jack Stice Memorial Award itself in 2005.
I was so honored. I adored Jack. I thought the world of that man.
I do not have a memory, but I would like to speak.
Go ahead.
Mama, you know Gwen Hardy would never forgive me if I did not fight for those pins and patches to go into the colors of leather. I'm just saying. So there's a fight up. There's a fight, Scott. We're going to fight over them.
I've got, well, most of these are a tad bit more modern. I've got to go through and what I want to do is take all of the badges out of the holders because we really don't need those and use those for other things or other events. And then attach, if the pins are attached to the holder, attach the pin to the card and sort them that way. But since Sir Gareth and Toy were usually at the same events, more than likely there are at least two of the badges and of the pins. A lot of them seem to be regional, but I'm not sure all of them are.
You're totally ruining my mud wrestling match with Scott. I'm just saying.
The two of you can figure it out. You know, one may stay here and one may go somewhere else. You know, all I'm saying is could be a fundraiser. That's all I'm saying.
I'd pay for that.
All right. Peg had a great question earlier, Mama. And I told her I would get to it first. Do you want to ask in person? You want me to read it, Peg?
Please go ahead.
She said, "What is your secret for remembering so many things, Mama Vi?"
Peg, it's not a secret. You know, we could get into all the science of synapses that open and close, and every time you refresh your memory, it opens and it refurbishes itself and all of that and strengthens it. But it's not really a secret. It's experiences and everything it triggers. You would find if you sat down with your grandparents, they would probably tell you they've forgotten more than you would remember, which is true. But something will usually trigger a memory, which is part of the fun the genealogists have when they interview grandparents, great uncles, distant cousins, is getting pieces to a puzzle that all comes together into who they are. But things trigger the memory. The memory reinforces the experience. And it becomes a loop. It becomes its own self-fed loop. I have had the privilege of 48 and a half years of this tribe's memory because they're so intertwined with my own. And when you're kind of an oddity, as I was back in the day, and privileged to be in the right place at the right time to witness so much, trust me, it makes an impression. Most people have those memories that they'll just never forget because those incidents, those things were so important. Someone would talk about the birth of their child or their marriage or the day they got their first promotion or the smell of their first new car, etc. Those are all important memories because they were all important experiences. What I have been blessed with was a lot more experiences than the average pig. So I have a lot more memories to go with it.
Oh, sorry, I had to share that somewhere, so I just put it in the chat. All right, everybody, if you've got questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to raise your hand if we have a lot of folks, or unmute and tell us what you think. What did you think watching an unboxing? How was that? Live. Peg says, "Thank you, Mama Vi." If anybody's seen the movie High Fidelity, that was my reference there in chat. They never got over the night their band opened for Nirvana.
Stunned
I think
silence.
you stun them. You stun them every time, Mama.
Stunned silence. Experiences to share.
I was going to say we need to see more of the unboxing videos on YouTube. Keep looking for new ones, and we need more.
Kitty's got her hand up.
Yeah,
What
personal request.
Matt, about 10, 15 that haven't gone up yet, including a couple of my rants.
It's been a little crazy around here lately. They are a touch behind.
They'll get there.
The web mistress is a horrible person.
No, the
All
web
her
mistress's
beatings have
life
been
is just
removed.
crazy right now. Let's see here. Here is the web page. Here is the YouTube channel. Did I share the wrong screen? I did. Try that again. It was showing me. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is what you find on the home screen. And if you go to playlists, there's 14 unboxings, some history, and the walkthroughs are there of some of the rooms. There's even some outtakes.
And just to be clear, the reviews are essentially unboxings. Mama just talks more about the individual item. That's all.
And if I have somebody visiting the library, if I can convince them to do an unboxing with me, that's fun. Or just being able, you know, somebody will pick up something and go, what? Or why? Or, which can also, you know, trigger another story.
Kitty had her hand up.
Just wanted to tell Mama Vi how grateful that I am that you spend your time coming in here and chatting. I know I was late. It's a time situation for me, but I'm so grateful to you. I've just heard about you. I've met you a couple of times through the years, and you know, I read your book, and you're just like a legend to us, and I'm so grateful. You know, you're just like an icon. You know, you know, back in the day when you came through, you were just such an oddity. You were so unique. It must have been so hard. You know, you've like paved. I'm sorry.
It was different. But it wasn't really hard.
No, not being your authentic self. It probably wasn't hard, was it?
No, because there was no one who said we couldn't. We were such a small group. It's hard to, with everything that the generations have, for you to understand the climate Jill and I came out in. Orange Spiegel, which now has 9,000 members all over the world, had less than 60, with 20 showing up at any given meeting. The NLA hadn't been born yet. Most of the groups that you know now were unheard of. We were little pockets of perversion that were so small. We protected each other. And it never dawned on us not to be our authentic selves, because for the most part, we didn't know we had something to hide. We clustered together for protection because the infamous federal community standard law could bite anyone in the backside. But in terms of hiding from each other, we didn't. We used our real names because the idea of not meant you had something to hide, and we really didn't. Jill and I were an oddity on a couple of different levels. We were far more odd for being a female to female couple than we were because we were a Black female couple. That kind of loneliness didn't sink in until about 6 years into our journey, when we had settled into the comfort and the delight of our leather family and realized that we had kissing cousins all over the United States. And we traveled. I got to do a little more. But it was probably 5, 6, 7 years into the journey before I looked around and went, the people who are out here who look like me, I could count on one hand. But it wasn't something we thought about. So we walked in who we were. I didn't have any problem. My collar was locked on. I couldn't remove it if I tried. And I had a regular job. The collar was a part of me. My chastity belt went through airport security. It set it off every time. And oh, did it create some amazing conversations. But it didn't come off. It was part of who we were. And the privilege of, let me rephrase that. By today's standard, that is an incredible luxury. Because now the world that you guys exist in is so very complicated because of how it is expanded. You don't know your friends from your enemies. There are some things you have to hide. There are some ways you can't be who you are because you're not sure which side you're going to get either hailed and exalted from or shot from. That didn't exist when I was coming up.
Go ahead, Kitty.
Mama
Go
Vi,
ahead, Kitty.
I'm finding a lot of that's actually coming back. You know, I've been in the lifestyles. I mean, I'm 54, so I've been in since 2000 is all. But some of my mentors I've met from the very first day have just made my lifestyle so secure. You know, it's like I don't have, you know, much experience of being in service. You know, I don't have, you know, play experience and all that, but, you know, I just have this great amount of security. And I think because of, you know, COVID and we're on Zoom, that our older crowd, our, you know, our mentors, you know, people like you and X and, you know, all of us are, you know, we're, you know, I like what you said about, you know, you don't know your friends from your enemies, but I keep my circle so very tight. You know, and I have so much security to be my authentic self. And I'm just so grateful, you know. We have another group and we talk about you quite a bit. It's Leather and Leaf. I don't know if you know Master Sekou.
Indeed, I do. Indeed, I do.
We love you. We love you. We have every other Monday, we have well, Master Sekou and his slave Nikki Major do. They have a web virtual meeting as well. That's a lot of fun that you would probably enjoy. But I think your name is brought up nearly every single time.
I need you to do me a favor and don't tell Sekou. Can you send me the link for the next meeting? I think I'll just drop in on my youngin. See how he's doing. Don't tell him.
I'm sorry, I muted you again, Kitty. We get feedback whenever your mic's open. Go ahead and open it back up. I'm sorry.
You know my sister is Slave Patricia. You were talking about the collar that doesn't come off. I'm actually waiting for her right now at work, but she's that way too. And that's why I'm here, is to get, you know, her immersion, you know, because, you know, yeah. Anyway, I will do that, Mama Vi. I think we're friends on FetLife. I'm gonna put my moniker on here.
I'm sorry. You're more on Facebook than Fet.
I don't do Facebook. I'll tell you what. I will make a Facebook. I will make one.
Matt will stick it in my messenger.
Okay.
I'll do what?
I will
find what?
I can, Mama, I can send you the link next time. I can find you on Facebook.
Thank you. Just stick it in my messenger. I'm going to scare the crap out of my boy.
Thank you, Kitty. Anybody else? Feel free.
You're the best, Mama Vi. You're the best.
We set these up so that we guys have time with Mama. Please take advantage of it. Feel free to type a question in the comments or unmute, raise your hand, and fire away. That's what this time is for.
Peg had a question about how you catalog your library. I think that sounds like a job for me, but
see what had happened was,
Y'all were watching her unbox, right? She was taking stuff and just kind of going, "Oh, I'm sorry."
And then about what I really need are two people who live on Library Lane, who do nothing but catalog, because I have said I can acquire it a whole lot faster than most people can catalog it. We do a lot of sorting and filing. One of the things, actually, you can't see it from here. We do a lot of, especially for people, for little things, for speeches, for things like that. We use a lot of different clamshells that allows us to preserve memorabilia just the way we get it. We have filing, we do a lot of filing in notebooks because we still travel. Even though we're now sitting in 2 buildings and I really need to get my neighbor out of the house next door. Of course, I'm dead dog broke, but that's okay. He's got to go. We need more space on Library Lane. We are still privileged to travel. So we move libraries to other events, which is why so much of what you see in the back is in notebooks. That's how they travel. And that's a lot of how things get sorted. Posters are sorted separately and filed in the art room, for instance. Magazines are filed, sorted, separated, and regrouped, and are sitting in the Tony DeBois room. Slowly but surely, we are making lists because there's a little university in the Northeast called Harvard, who seems to be kind of hot to trot to get into our rare books room. Which I actually found kind of surprising. The squirrel, you're stuck with a storyteller. The Library Center for Sex and Culture came down from San Francisco, and how it worked is a very long story, and why it happened is an even longer story. The owners of the San Francisco Center for Sex and Culture had to go out of business when their rent hit $14,000 a month. For 6 months, Harvard paid their rent so that Harvard could go through their collection and acquire about 60% of it for a brand new department at the graduate level in human sexuality. Then they were real curious as to what the center was going to do with what was left and why. When they said it was coming to us, well, who are you? And why didn't it go to Kinsey? And now at one point in time with the old website, we had a lot of our catalog itself online in what we call the stacks. We haven't been able to get there yet and recreate that from the crash of the previous website. But hopefully to put the stacks back up, because they requested some of the inventory for the rare book room, and we sent it. And now all of a sudden you've got what? Well, how did you get that? Why do you have that? And so on. Because the Carter Johnson, while we use the term leather, the more accurate description is actually kinky. And I'm the one currently who gets to define kink. And I've got a pretty twisted idea of
everything,
what fits in this library. So it is a broader collection than most would think. And so we're going to see where that pairing goes, especially if we pull off the exhibit we're in negotiation for now. The Los Angeles Museum of Art wants to bring the library to the museum for 6 weeks.
Wow.
That will be a bigger undertaking than anything I could have imagined in my wildest wet dreams. And did I mention I've got some pretty wild dreams? So we're going to see where that goes, and quite possibly invite Harvard to join us in the process. We shall see.
Cool. Intellectual Daddy, and then Peg had a couple more questions that are really good that I'm going to get from the chat.
Can I piggyback real quick on what Mama said? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes, go ahead.
Mama, on the exhibit in LA, what's the focus of that?
We only had our first meeting a week and a half ago. And for those of you who know that we have a presence on Second Life, an island called the Athenaeum, which means library. And it is put together and maintained for us by our Athenaeum griot by the name of Jessica Bogart. It is stunningly beautiful. It is like walking through living art. The job she did on that island is so incredible. It's breathtaking for me. She started with an exhibit that the library is known for. It's a 6-board folding display panel called We Didn't Invent This. And I asked people to start actually at the top of the left-hand board and walk backward through history, going all the way back 10,000 years to the dig in Turkey of Göbekli Tepe. The first thing they uncovered there was a guy with a raging boner. What I would like to do, and we're working on the storyboard now, is to actually turn that into a walking exhibit. To start people at one end and walk them backward through non-traditional sexuality, which is what you would essentially do if your avatar went to Second Life and then went to the Athenaeum. You would be walking through that exhibit. What I am currently I have thrown it out to them and told all of them they had to go here and do this, and gave them all the URL and said, we will meet again in a month after you've done it. Because the idea is to make that full size, add the books, add more displays, add things that can be stood and read, which is probably going to send the museum through the wall, but you know, shit happens. And that's the idea for that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Intellectual Daddy, go ahead.
How would one go about petitioning for filling that role to live there on Library Lane and work for the library, to serve the library?
Short term, the library does have the center actually has a scholars room. As a matter of fact, Tom stayed in the scholars room when he came to visit. It's fairly comfortable. It's a little bit dormitory-like. We're getting to decorating. Currently, there are 6 houses on that block that belong to the family, and one who is a kissing cousin who knows all about what we do and supports us. And I keep trying to get rid of the neighbors. They don't need to be on my block anyway. But for at least short-term stays, the average scholar stay is about a month, actually.
What about long-term, Mama?
Longer? Robbie is always talking about wanting a roommate. And as houses become available, because as I said, I'm looking at my next door neighbor who's renting and going, you really need to get the hell out of my neighborhood. But there is one that we are in the process of fixing now. We snatched a house back from the only drug dealer in the area and turned the neighborhood safe. That we're in the process of remodeling as I can. And there's another one that has the potential to be up for sale. So can it happen? Yeah. For a longer term, there's one house that's about a block. It's not on the lane itself, which is 7 houses out of 13 in one block. It's actually 1 block down and 1 block over. So it's a block and a half's walk to the library. Are we trying to take over the neighborhood? Yeah.
What do you mean trying? I think you have.
Inspire.
We're working on it. Until everybody's off our block, I'm not willing to go there. Love you, mean it, move.
All right, Mama. How often this is from Peg, how often do packages come in, from whom, and are you afraid of running out of room?
All right, let me tackle the last one first. As much as I joke about it, because space in this house is a four-letter, space in this family is a four-letter word. I am a child obedient to fate. I went down this road because fate told me I had to. This isn't an issue of do you want it, can you run away, can you turn around? This fate said this is what you are going to do for your tribe, period. And in those times, as frightened as I have been, fate has made a way. And I truly believe when I am down to those last 2 or 3 feet, something else is going to happen. What? I don't know. Whether it will be a check to turn the storage building in the back into another room in the library, or somebody coming in and going, I've got 24 square yards of concrete and I'm about to lay a foundation, and by the way, we're going to add to the storage unit or the storage building and change it. I don't know what it's going to be, Peg, but just looking at how this center happened, if I do what I'm told, fate makes the way for me. To make that very short, I got a call from the center that said, we could send this collection to Kinsey, or we could send it to you. We chose you. When I got over the initial shock and rehinged my jaw and said, thank you, sight unseen, because I had no idea what was in it. My first reaction was, I will find the storage unit and we'll work from there. 2 days later, my realtor called and said, you know that house that's been sitting empty next to the library for the last 10 years? Well, the owner has decided to sell it, and you have until 11 o'clock, and this call came in at 6 p.m., to say if you want it or not, because in the morning it goes on the market. So the immediate answer was yes. Then the secondary answer was, where the fuck am I going to get the money for this? I'm broke. She came over with the contract, put my name on the contract, put down the last $1,000 I had. Someone was supposed to buy it for us and wigged out the last minute. I went to another member of the family and said, I need to borrow $40,000. And the answer was, who do I send the check to? Peg, it will happen. I don't know how. I don't know when. But I know that it will. Am I worried? Constantly. I'm black, old, and Jewish. I worry by nature. But is it going to happen? Yes. Now, as to the rest of it, now, where were we? What were the easy parts to that question?
The easy parts were, let's see if I can find them again. How often do packages come in and from whom?
Some of the most wonderful ones have been coming in from a man named Tom Butts. In terms of trickle down, Tom's partner was a wonderful man named Andrew Charles that I knew and loved. Andrew's previous partner, or first husband, because Tom was his second, was one of the few men in my life that I have ever called daddy. And that was a man named Anthony Frank DeBlas. Now, as things have happened, and Tom has found himself trying to figure out where to put 10,000 square foot of belongings in a probably 4,000 square foot house, which is still a ginormous home, he has said that having a lot of those memorabilia, the evidence of the experience at the library would mean a lot to him. And since the magazine room was already named for that man that I called Daddy, these boxes have been coming in full of
crap.
things.
I mean, precious treasures.
I'm ignoring the other man on the screen. Full of things that are so precious that when I finally gave up dealing with my crazy bookkeeper and sent him the inventory for his tax purposes, at least a third of it couldn't even be valued. It was so precious. There is no way. It's kind of like putting a value on Einstein's scribbles on a napkin. There's no price tag that can go with that. And I've been getting boxes and boxes of them.
Mom, I just shared a link to the one of the unboxing videos that we did of one of the boxes that Tom sent.
Two things are sitting on my ancestor's chair. And if you ever come to visit, you'll know that there is a chair in this room that is hand carved from one piece of mahogany. It is a chair from my ancestors that is a young man kneeling and reading a book with the chair on his shoulders. And two things never leave that chair. Now, I'm going to hold these up for you. And I want you to tell me how I'm supposed to put a value on them. One is the cover of Andrew Charles. One is the cover of Dr. Anthony F. DeBlas. There's nothing I can say. I have Tony's marriage license from his first marriage. I have the handwritten notes of his dissertation, a piece so well done and so well informed that it was published by the Field Museum as one of their own. I have his IML jacket. I have Charles Andrews overlay. I have the bracelet they wore. While it is not exactly a letter opener, because it's as sharp as a shuriken, Tony's dagger stays on my desk, handling this very gently. It's a bat, because his specialty was bats, particularly, by the way, the vampire bat, but that was also a private joke between us. The Desmodus, which is what he named his company, is a vampire bat, and it was his favorite. I have packages that have come in that have been sealed, not to be opened for 50 years. We send to the two people who sent those to us, we send a photograph every year that the seal is unbroken. Just things like what you saw tonight. More and more people are discovering that it doesn't have to be traditionally leather to show the scope of the human who had it. I joke, Peg, about the fact that I want your leather notes and your scholarly articles, because both show who the leather person is. And I think that gives us a slightly different perspective than our big brother in Chicago, but we are also a broader collection. So who sends it to us? More and more members of the community who want things that are not exactly traditional preserved.
If I can put not too fine a point on it, you send us the boxes that Mama opens.
Yeah.
Vanilla Rose asked, in regards to staying in the Scholar Library, does one apply for the stay?
Kind of, but it's nowhere near as difficult as you think it is. It had always been my fantasy to be locked into my favorite library when I was a kid. Just leave me alone and let me read. In making that fantasy real, to artists, to scholars, because as far as I'm concerned, you're all scholars. And to visitors to this tribe, all we need is to make sure that the schedule is clear so that there's nobody in the room. Because, by the way, if you're staying in the center, which is where the room is, you also have the keys to the building next door. So if you, accidentally fall asleep in the library instead of wandering back to the bedroom, stuff happens. All we really need to do is make sure that the center for the room, the schedule, I should say, for the room is wide open. Hopefully, while you're here, you will be inspired to create something. Our first poet, who was part of the PhDs in Pajamas weekend, which was a hoot. I had 3 PhDs running through the library. I don't think they went out more than once in the 7 days they were there. One is writing a new book of poetry inspired by the library. The other is working on a brand new dissertation. She already has 3. She already has 2. This is going to be number 3. So give us a holler. Hey, is anybody going to be in there this week? If the answer is no, come on down. Not only will you probably go to sleep reading, I can put you to work.
I'm totally locking you in the rare books room next time I'm there. Does anybody have any final thoughts? We got just a couple of minutes left. Tom, I having been part of the unboxings and the stuff that you have sent is incredible. And I'd like to thank you as well. And really, folks, our history comes from you. Either the history you've created or the history that you found out in the wild.
And if I can jump in, also the history that we rescue and save from the community. I've was called in, one of the leather elders in the Portland area is moving to assisted care from his apartment. And friends in the community are boxing his thousands and thousands of books of all sorts of everything. And they had mentioned, it's like, oh, we've got a box or 2 of Bound and Gag magazines. Would you like them? Yes, please. Yes, please. I'll come over. I don't need them, but I know a place, the Carter Johnson. When I went over there, 2 boxes of Bound and Gags and some older drummers and stuff like that. And then they knew I had a shred bin at my office, and they had 2 grocery bags of stuff for the shred bin. Sure, I'll be happy to take them. As I was walking them out to my car, I noticed that there's a NLA newsletter sticking out of the top of one of the shred bins. It's like, oh, well, I was like, no, it's all shred. He's like, no, I want to look at this first. In there, about a third to a half of one of the grocery bags was truly shreddable. Bank statements, confidential stuff, absolutely shredded. The other bag and a half were NLA newsletters from NLA Seattle in the 90s, early 90s.
Wow.
One of them mentioning the new chapter in Portland that was just starting, NLA Portland. The programs from NLA 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 8, I think. The old tabloid newsletter, tabloid newsletter style programs from NLA. Portland Leatherman newsletters from the 80s and 90s and 2000s. Portland Dungeonman newsletters, all of those. Rescued, they're still in the grocery bags, but they're in my office waiting to go to the Carter Johnson along with all the other crap. I mean, precious treasures, and not for the landfill. We save our history.
You're here.
That goes with something that I was wanting to say. And first and foremost, thank you both. Tom, Mama, thank you. Because for you guys, this is your history. And that has deep meaning to me personally anyway, because somebody's history, when you hear them tell it, is so deep, and it touches me. And I'm sure it touches many of us. But for a lot of us that weren't there, your memories are as close as we'll ever get. It's all we have.
Yes.
And without you and people like you remembering that, and Scott, you as well, I did not mean to leave you out of that. Without you guys making sure this stuff is saved and roping some of us into doing the same, we wouldn't know those things. We wouldn't have those stories. I wouldn't know anything about Jack Stice. I wouldn't know anything about Tony DeBlas. And my goal is to be Tony when I grow up. And I'm not the kind of person that would be Tony, but I still want to do it. But I wouldn't know that without you. So you guys are so important to us. So thank all of you. And to the rest of you who are just starting your journey, remember every time you go to throw away an event package, or every time you go to go, well, oh, that's not important. It's not important to you because you're living it right now. In 15 years, it's going to be important to you. In 20 years, it's going to be important to you. In 60 years, it's going to be important to you. And even more importantly, in 20, 30, 50, 60, 100 years, it's going to be important to other people like us, because your information will be all we have, all they have. So, don't throw your history away. Box it up and stick it in a corner. Find somebody you trust to take care of it after your death, whatever you're doing, because those people are going to thank you. And much the same way that Sir and I thank Bob Moody, because without him, we wouldn't know what we know about the mine shaft.
You're here. Have y'all met my slave? I had something I was going to say in relation to that. Gosh, it went away. No, it was a piggyback. I would like to point out that, as Shar said, many folks are like, "Oh, it's just me. It's not important. It's nothing valuable." I would like to tell all of you right now that I have heard those words come out of Mama Vi's mouth. She thinks the same thing about her stuff and the things that she has done. That's how history is made, folks. You make it every day.
And I would remind everyone, and you've heard me say this before, as Shar had pointed out, it is something that you are living. History is not designated by the present. It's decided by the future. As we go through our day-to-day lives, as we go through our experiences, we don't know what is history making. We only know what we are doing in that moment. Because if you're doing something based on how it will be viewed 10, 15, 20, or 25 years from now, what you're doing is self-aggrandizing. You're not trying to live in the moment. You're trying to manipulate the future. And that's the future's job. I often say, when those guys were sitting in a little tavern in Boston, bitching about their wives and the cost of groceries, specifically tea and taxes, did they know that their kvetching would start a new nation?
No.
No. They were just bitching about their wives and their lives over a pint.
And
The
did any one of them think to take notes and remember and save that stuff?
I'm betting there was a Mama or a Shar or a me or a Scott who was running around picking up the little pieces of paper they were making notes on. Yeah, but
Probably, actually.
The cocktail napkins where they scribbled this stuff on.
right.
But did they?
Scott probably has some of those.
Actually,
That wouldn't surprise me. That's what I was getting to. It wouldn't surprise me. Did
He's
they
up in a
not?
cabinet.
No.
you think I'm kidding?
No, I don't think you're kidding.
Were they living their authentic self? Yes. And the future went, you wouldn't believe what those guys did right then.
Let me get Scott up here.
Right.
I'm sure he's got one.
That's the cocktail napkin that started the Bay State Marauders Club colors right there.
Oh, I was joking, but I was serious at the same time because I know you.
I can put my hand on it at minute.
That's the impressive part.
Well, I'm a little organized.
All right, everybody. Mama, thank you as always. Everybody, thank you for attending. I'm going to do what I forget to do every time. The next Librarian Speaks will be on Cinco de Mayo. So join us with your favorite beverage and find out what's new in the library then. Mama, thank you so much. Attendees, thank you so much for coming. Tell your friends, bring more. And I will have both announcements up much sooner than they have been recently. And we hope to see you next time. Y'all have a great night.